What is up, guys, and welcome back to my channel. My name is Elon, and in this video I'm going to teach you guys about brain waves. Brain waves are super important to understand, and this is a concept that blew my mind when I first found out about it. So this is going to be more of a biophysics, biohacking sort of video, not a metaphysical video, but what's super interesting is that this all ties together. So when you're learning things like Kabbalah and you're learning these systems of occultism, you can integrate them with our biology, and this is called biophysics nowadays, in a way that makes sense. And somebody that's doing this really well is Joe Dispenza, who I really like to follow. So he takes these mystical, occult, spiritual science concepts, and then he weaves them in with real science in a way that makes massive changes in people's lives. And I think that this is really going to be the future of science. And obviously materialist scientists and materialist atheists, like the selfish gene types, are going to fight this tooth and nail. But at the end of the day, there is real scientific research backing this stuff up now. And what I'm going to teach you guys in this video today is 100% real science that you can actually measure with real devices. There's studies on it, etc. So a lot of the times when it comes to brain waves, people try to teach it from slowest to highest frequency, or from highest frequency to slowest frequency, but I don't think that's the best way to teach it. I think the best place to start is kind of in the middle with the beta wave frequency, because the beta wave frequency, beta, is where we live most of our lives, and this is in the middle. So if we look at the entire spectrum, we have delta, which is the slowest, then we have theta, which is like the genius frequency that you see a lot about, then we have alpha, then we have beta, and then we have gamma. So beta is kind of towards the higher frequency. And what this is, it's just the normal waking frequency that you exist in your entire life. And it's interesting that it's called beta because it is kind of a reactive frequency. It's a frequency where you're not having massive changes happen to you. You're kind of functioning just out of your normal ego waking states, where your default mode network is active, you're conscious, you're thinking about stuff, you're rationally making decisions. There's nothing mystical going on, there's nothing trippy going on, you're just living your normal everyday life like me right now. And a lot of people, when they get into this metaphysical stuff and this biophysics, hacking your brainwaves type of stuff, they want to demonize beta, and they want to spend as little time inside beta as possible because they constantly want to be having these healing and mystical experiences. But at the end of the day, there's nothing wrong with this, and it's healthy to be spending most of your time in this frequency for your brain, because this is just the normal life that we have, right? So what you could think about beta is just nothing special. You could think about it like somebody in a 9-to-5, they're mostly going to be existing in this brainwave frequency. Nothing much to say here, nothing much to do here. This is kind of normal. And then we're going to work backwards, right? So from beta, we go into alpha. Alpha, these kind of words, they do really describe themselves. If you're aware of like what beta and alpha are looked at as in society, it does kind of make sense when you think about beta brainwaves and alpha brainwaves. Alpha brainwaves is like a flow state. So you could think about it like, let's say the normal 9-to-5er, right? But now he really locks in and he's performing at a super high level, a higher level than a lot of other people at the company, where things are like flowing. Let's say you're a salesperson and just closing deal after deal, or you're a coder and you really hit like that feeling where you're just in the zone. That would be described as alpha wave frequency. And the best way to get into alpha wave frequency is by using something called isochronic tones. And you can look this up on YouTube. So basically, according to the research, these isochronic tones are likely to put you into an alpha frequency more than something like a binaural beats, which we're going to go more into later. So what these isochronic tones is, it's basically just this ticking that does a certain amount of ticks per second. So for example, 10 ticks per second, right? So that would mean that every 10 or 100 milliseconds, right, it would be like, and what this does is your brain starts to sync up to this frequency, and then it puts you into this flow state. You can really try this for yourself. So a lot of the times, if I'm writing an article or a blog post or working on a book or working on an outline for a video, I'll put on these isochronic tones in alpha. And alpha is really kind of active when you're shifting from theta, which is kind of when you just wake up every day, into beta when, again, you're just in that normal kind of semi-anxious reactive mode. Between those two things, you're in alpha. So you really want to stay there in the early morning when you're doing your biggest work, like the work that's really going to move the needle. So I would say most of the time that you're working, you want to get a job that it would benefit from you being in alpha state, first of all, if you want to live to your highest purpose. So if you're working as like a, like a shoe salesman or at the grocery store at McDonald's or whatever, there's really no reason for you to be in flow state unless you really want to maximize your burger flipping or whatever. But if you're an entrepreneur, if you have a high skill job or something like that, it's going to benefit you to be able to train yourself to get into the alpha state. And the more you use these isochronic tones and the more you get your brain into this state and train it to enter it more quickly, the more easily you're going to be able to get into this flow, right? We know that neurons that fire together wire together, right? So every time you can train your brain into shifting from beta to alpha and making that shift, the more easily it's going to do that. And this can be measured with an EEG. So what that basically is it's a machine that hooks up to your brain that measures the electromagnetic frequencies that are emitting from your skull, and it can actually tell you which brainwave frequency that you're in. And you can do EEG training together with these binaural beats and getting into flow state in order to optimize the amount of time that it takes for you to shift into these brainwave states. And if you really want to reach a high level of whether it is productivity or spirituality, it really comes down to the ability to shift between these brainwave states quickly. And what that means is if you can easily shift from your normal waking state, which again, nothing wrong with it, into a state of flow or into a state of meditation, you're going to have more time during the day, right? What we learn is time is an illusion. Time actually feels differently in terms of how it passes depending on which brainwave state that you're in. And the slower that your brainwaves go, basically the more time that you have, because it feels subjectively like time is going slower when your brainwaves are going slower. So the more time that you spend in alpha working, the more time essentially that you spend working. This is why a lot of these entrepreneurs, they say, the really efficient ones like Dan Koh, shout out to Dan Koh, love his stuff. He says he only works 4 hours a day, but I would bet that he spends a majority of those 4 hours in an alpha brainwave state. So his 4 hours are a lot different than your 4 hours if you're existing in the beta wave state where you're kind of reactive, distracted, kind of all over the place, whereas he's like single focus alpha brain, right? You can also think about Alpha Brain, right? The supplement by Joe Rogan and Aubrey Marcus. Alpha Brain has a lot of ingredients in it that actually increase the speed at which you can transition from beta to alpha brainwave state by influencing your internal biochemistry. So your ability to switch through brainwave states is also highly influenced by the coherence that you have between your brain, your heart, and all your bioelectric organs in your body, and the ability for electricity to be flowing easily and quickly through your body. And that's affected by a ton of different stuff like your hydration, where your neurotransmitters are at. But we're getting a little bit off topic. This is a topic for a different video. So isochronic tones, try it out. That's really going to help you shift from beta to alpha to be more efficient in your work. Try it just for 1 or 2 days and you'll have great results. I'm going to be coming out with a community soon where I have this all in one place for you guys. But right now you could just look up isochronic tones on YouTube. And I would really recommend don't do the ones with the music, just do the ones with the ticking. It might make you a little bit anxious at first, but I found that that's by far the most efficient, and you really want to train yourself to do that. and also get a high quality set of earbuds. But with the isochronic tones, you don't need a different frequency or tone in both ears. So you could just listen to it on a speaker. But I find that the earphones are better because they send the vibrations directly through your ears into your brain, right? It has to travel less of a distance to sync up with your brain waves. So that makes sense to me. Now from alpha, further going slower, we have theta. So theta is super interesting, and they call theta the genius frequency, right? The CIA, if you look up CIA gateway process, did a lot of research on theta waves, and these are important for mystical experiences, really transformative change, and they can really help you reprogram your subconscious mind. So is it good for working? Not necessarily, or being productive? Not directly, right? But theta waves are a place where you can start to rewire your subconscious beliefs. So if somebody puts you in hypnosis, if you're in a deep meditative state, if you're in a trance state, you're getting a massage, or something where you're really open to suggestion, you're in a theta wave state. So the way you could look at it is, this isn't going to make you more effective today, but it's going to be able to reprogram you so you're more unconsciously effective in the future. So we all have constantly, when we're living our lives, subconscious blockages, things that are holding us back from achieving our full potential that we don't even fully understand. It could have been something that your parents said to you when you were little, or something that a relationship partner or a friend said that just got rooted into your subconscious and is now holding you back. It could be your beliefs about money, it could be your beliefs about relationships, it could be your beliefs about health that are actually impacting your health and that you're not consciously aware of in your normal beta state. And being an alpha isn't gonna help you either. Being in a flow state isn't gonna help you reprogram your subconscious. It can maybe reprogram your habits on the more surface level of your subconscious, but when it gets deeper into the stuff that you need to be crying to a therapist about or something like that, you need to be in theta wave frequency to start doing that work. And a lot of people in the modern world, we are so busy and always on social media and always being stimulated that best case scenario, we get into alpha if we have a meaningful job. But most people don't spend much time in theta, aside from when they're from ages 0 to 7. And from ages 0 to 7, your brain is actually mostly functioning in this theta wave state. And that's when you got programmed by your school, by your parents, by society, and that's where they told you what you have to care about, when you have to care about it, what kind of beliefs that you should have, right? So if you never go into this state as an adult, you never get to change that programming that you picked up from 0 to 7. Sometimes that's a good thing. You'll see people like who are super rich and successful that were programmed in the right way when they were young, and they're scared to do things like psychedelics, and they're scared to do things like hypnosis or things that might put you into the theta state, which, by the way, ketamine-assisted therapy and psilocybin-assisted therapy, they are so powerful because they also put you in this theta state where you can then be reprogrammed, right, by yourself and the therapist. But a lot of the times, these people that had the best upbringing, they don't want to do this because they don't want to change. They don't want to reprogram their subconscious. And that could be good, you know, if people already have everything in line and they know exactly what's going on. But most people, you know, they weren't necessarily programmed with the most positive beliefs. I know that I definitely wasn't. You know, I grew up broken family, poor family, a lot of problems around money, a lot of limiting beliefs. You know, they faced persecution and racism in their home country. So I grew up with a lot of baggage, right? And a lot of love too, but baggage and love is all I had. I didn't have the skills or the beliefs that I needed to be successful. So I needed to do a lot of theta reprogramming, and still need to do a lot of theta reprogramming in order to just get myself to the point where I could get into that flow state and be effective in it without getting to a point where I had a subconscious blockage. Because a lot of the times what would happen to me would be that I would act in a way for a long time that led to me getting to some level of success, but then I would get to the point where I would self-sabotage, whether it be in relationships or business. And I realized when I started to meditate and spend more time in the theta brainwave state that the reason why I was doing these self-sabotages were due to subconscious blockages that I was not taking the time to reprogram. And what's really good for this to do simply on a daily basis, not on these acute things where you're doing like a psychedelic assisted therapy or a hypnosis with an expert or something, but just on a daily basis, guided meditation and guided hypnosis meditation is really good. And you got to pick the right ones that have the really high quality audios and also the really high quality NLP talking, right? With a real good hypnotic voice, so that it can start to induce you into what you want to get out of life. So you can reprogram yourself around anything, around your money mindset, around your health mindset. And what's the best thing for shifting you into theta is going to be the binaural beats that I mentioned earlier. But again, you have to make sure that it's a high quality binaural beat, and then NLP audio in terms of the talking, you want it to be in a certain way that the NLP practitioners talk, and AI could do this now, where they talk in this rhythmic manner that puts you into this hypnotic trance, and certain things they repeat over and over again, and that starts to drill it deeper and deeper into your subconscious. You can find a lot of these type of things on YouTube, and a regular practice with these type of things is really good. Then once you're used to getting into the theta state, and if you could even train yourself with an EEG to monitor when you're in it on your own, you can start to reprogram yourself. And what I'm really big on is meditation and then prayer. So when you meditate, you're putting yourself into the theta state, and then when you pray or do invocation or however you want to word it, a lot of the times the line between meditation and prayer is even blurry, but basically you want to get yourself into a super relaxed state, and then you want to start to do your whatever you're going to be saying to yourself. So essentially you can start to take full control over your reprogramming once you understand, okay, I'm actually in the theta state right now. The version of me that's talking to me right now is my highest self, and it's going to start to reprogram my normal waking self. And that's when you really start to become the God, right, in your life. And when you really start to act from your highest purpose is when you can induce yourself into this state reliably, talk to yourself in this state reliably. Another thing I really like for getting into theta is massage. So massage is a really good way that just naturally starts to induce your body into it. And while I get a massage, like a long massage, I'll listen to an audiobook or something that I really want to learn on a deep level and to become programmed into my subconscious. So somebody I want to be more like. So I'll listen to a book from like Joe Dispenza, or I'll listen to a book about Kabbalah or about philosophy or metaphysics or Neoplatonism, or something that I really, in my normal waking state is kind of difficult to, really dig my teeth into. Like I can listen to it, I can read the book, but a lot of the times it just doesn't get like ingrained in your personality until you get that physical release of that tension at the same time as listening to it. And I find that a lot of those times I really internalize the lesson a lot better. They should have people massaging you, when you're in a college classroom or something like that. So a lot more I could say about theta, but we'll save that for the future. I think that's enough about theta for now because it's just an overview. The next one is delta. So delta is a state of deep and transformative healing. This is the brainwave state that you hear about that people are in when, people are suddenly getting out of wheelchairs after being in wheelchairs for a long time, or their cancer's going into remission or whatever. It's because they are spending a lot of time in this delta state. And this delta state is mostly achieved when you're just in deep sleep, right? When you're just totally knocked out and you're healthy and you can go into this delta sleep. So the problem with a lot of people is because their health is not necessarily there and their sleep hygiene is not necessarily there, they don't spend enough time in this deep restorative sleep and their injuries start to add up. So here we're talking about healing your actual physical body. So as you get older, maybe some of you guys watching are a little bit older, you know, you start to get these aches and pains like your ankle, your back, and all this stuff. And if you don't spend enough time in delta wave sleep, your body just doesn't have the amount of time to be able to heal these things. And your ability to get into the delta deep sleep state, it's not just about how you sleep, it's about how you live too. If you're living in a stressful way, then by the time you get to sleep, you're not necessarily going to have enough time in order to transition into that deep sleep. So again, delta would be when your brain waves are the slowest. So in order to get to delta, you already had to go from beta through alpha to theta and then to delta. So if you're living in this high beta kind of like agitated mode, then when you sleep, you might not have enough time to be making that transition accurately. So a lot can be said about maximizing the delta sleep that you have for healing, but that's pretty much the most important thing that you have to understand. This is more about like your unconscious physical health, you know, the health of your body holistically is mostly associated with this state. And then there's one more there's one that they're discovering now that they say that's even slower than delta called epsilon, but I haven't done a ton of research about that, but let me know if you guys want me to research that. So we work down from beta to alpha to theta to delta, and then above beta, there's another one called gamma. And you might think that gamma is like anxiety or stress because it's even higher than beta, but actually it's kind of the opposite. Gamma is kind of like another type of flow state, but it's a different kind of flow state. I would say that alpha is more of like a flow state related to kind of more physical things, like where your body is highly reactive and you're bending time, space, and the laws of physics, whereas gamma is more like if you're gaming or if you're doing I mean, they both can be good for that, but if you're doing something purely intellectual or something where you need to focus on like one specific thing. So if you think about it, it's kind of like a laser where the brainwave is going really fast and just like zoned in on something. I find that gamma could be really good for writing a book or coding a website, or gamma is like an ADHD cure in a way, because I've been diagnosed with ADHD and I cured myself by using all these different tactics, reprogramming my subconscious and then replacing a lot of my medication with these different brainwave frequencies. And I find that gamma actually really helps me to do deep focus. And they also found that in some spiritual states of like high ecstasy, like if you think about somebody not like meditating, but somebody like doing like a drum circle or like doing ecstatic dancing, jumping up and down, or the dervish whirling that the Sufi mystics do, so like an ecstatic mystical state, that's associated with gamma too. So gamma is also like a heightened state of awareness and focus, and it's fast, but it's not necessarily bad. So as you can see, you can have like a dualistic view about these kind of things, like this one's good and this one's bad. They're all necessary for you to spend time in as a human. These are all states that your brain is naturally attuned to be able to be in, but you need to be able to use them in a way that is serving you, right, and not hurting you. So when you're living unconsciously of these things, you're not controlling which brainwave frequencies that you're in. But once you understand them, especially if you can track them with an EEG, you can start to optimize which times of day you're in these brainwave states. And after a while, your brain starts to more quickly shift between the states without even needing to use external stimuli. And when you use external stimuli, it happens even faster, more efficiently, and more controllably. So essentially, you're able to get more out of every day, warp kind of time and the way that your brain is interacting with the physical world around you by manipulating your brainwave states. So I haven't really seen a lot of great videos that sum up this entire thing. Usually they kind of just throw them in there while talking about other stuff like I do. So I want to give you guys an overview of the different brainwaves so you could really start to master them for yourself. Let me know what you guys want to see more about in the future. Thanks for watching, guys. Peace.